afternoon. I'm Jeannie, your host for the next hour. Today's class, we are just continuing our work on cultivating our breath of fire as we're moving into the colder months. We had that really big drop in temperature the other day, so hopefully if you're feeling a little colder, you can use this breath of fire, or just a good routine practice of exercise every day to maintain that temperature resistance and strength as we're going through this transition. So let's see, we've been working on standing exercises, opening our major joint groups, and working our muscles. So we're going to start at the back of the mat. I can't really think of any props unless you have some of your own favorite, but we'll be definitely using some blocks if you have issues making our fold. And you can use the chair as well. We will be doing some standing positions, which might require looking up. And you don't have to if you start to get dizzy. Having a chair there, having a wall nearby, if you happen to be there, might be nice. So as we start at the back of the mat, we'll start with just trying to breathing without changing the quality of the breath. We're just coming to breathe at the back of the mat. Notice how you're arriving. How does that air enter the nose? And as you start to notice how the air exits the nose, you can feel the mat under the feet. Slowly, as we start to focus inward,
And we're just going to give ourselves that nice support right here. You can give a reminder of where that rooting is, and then release. Feel like you can stand here for a while. You can release and hopefully find your glute muscles just start to relax. And as we're here, we're going to inhale the hands up and feel as if your torso is lifting up at the top of that inhale. You might just lengthen through the legs, pressing down on those big pads of your feet to help lengthen upwards. And then we can exhale, hands down, heart center. And then finally back behind us, inhaling, bringing the thumbs up. We're going to bring palms together once more. And really reach up. Again, see if your legs can lengthen downwards. And then exhale, hands down, heart center, sweeping them back behind you. And then inhaling once more out to the sides, hands up. Now, this time, just right above you. See if you can bend and touch each elbow with the opposite hand. And then we're going to switch those hands on the elbow. So inhale, hands up. Lift up, really reaching. Exhale, hands down. We'll do that one more time. Inhale up. Exhale, switch the elbows. Inhale up. Exhale, switch the elbows. And then inhale, sweep the hands gently back behind you. Just let them kind of rest behind the hips. See if you can open up through the tops of the shoulders. Palms facing forward to open up the shoulders. Feel that string at the crown of the head lifting upwards as you're lengthening downwards with the arms and with the feet, with the legs. All right, one more inhale up. And see if you can gently grab a hold of your opposite wrist. Press into your wrist that you're holding into. Press into that leg, into the foot. Lift up with the wrist. And then exhale, pressing that left leg down. For me, you're just bending at the hand. You're not really bending too much, or you're feeling that lengthening. You are pressing into that area, and both feet are still nice and anchored. You might have a gentle lift up. Exhale, power back to center. Bring the hands down, and just let them kind of loosen. You can roll forward, you can roll back. We're going to do the other side, but we've had our arms up for a while, so just give yourself a nice little counter stretch. You can bobble the base of the neck. Inhale deeply. Exhale. And then we'll bring the arms back up. And then exhale. Bring the opposite wrist into your hand. So it's now your right wrist, hopefully. Press down on that right foot. Lift up. And then exhale, just gently stretch over. You don't have to force anything, you're just stretching. Hopefully feeling it all the way down here, but you're feeling that anchoring point from the hip down to the right foot. And then exhale, back to center. Hands down gently, and just let them kind of float down. And then do what you need to do. You can wave the shoulders forward and back. You can do it one at a time. And then we're going to bring the legs back under our hip bones into mountain. And give yourself any movement, gentle bouncing. And you might find that, you may feel that subtle, still movement in the buttocks there. So one thing you can think about is just tilting back, sticking the tailbone back, and then lifting up, gently tucking it under, and resetting your mountain. Now hopefully you're finding more of the hip over the knees, over the ankles, and the shoulders, bringing them back and down. And hopefully you feel the length to the back of the neck. Alrighty, now let's see how we're doing with time. We're gonna make our way down to the floor. If you need the chair, go ahead and use the chair. If you use blocks, go ahead. But we're coming on down to our knees. And if you have sensitive knees, you're gonna want a blanket underneath the shins. So as you make your way down, you can use the chair, you can use the blocks, but we're just going to do our bend. Again, bending at the hips, bending at the knees, coming on down, using the chair if you need to, using the blocks, coming on. So we have our knees, and then maybe a blanket, maybe something if we need support for our shins. And just take a moment there as we don't really have the tops of our kneecaps, but more of that shin where the knee meets. And I'm going to move this chair over to the side there. And if you have your blocks nearby, you can always use those to help you as we're transitioning to camel. So here, feel whether or not it's available to open up the tops of your ankles. Some people have really tight ankles where it doesn't feel good to have the tops supporting them. So you might have to have a gentle tuck, you might have to have the feet hanging out. But eventually, we want to use maybe the blocks if we need to, or just our hands. Eventually coming up to a point where we can support our shins, our body with our shin, and walking up. And this may be a while. Just give yourself that time. It takes about 3 to 5 breath cycles to find your edge. So it may take a while. If you're not able to tuck under, if your hips are really tight, you may find yourself here just lengthening upwards. And eventually, if you're able to bring the torso upright, we're focusing on bringing the shoulders over the hips and the hips over the knees, and a gentle tucking of the tailbone so that you can imagine lengthening through the pubic bone going downward as you lengthen through the belly, through the chest. Gentle tuck of the chin. You might bring hands to the buttocks. You might bring hands behind your back. You might bring one hand to hold on to the wrist of the other. See if you can open up through the shoulders. And we are gently pressing into our shins and engaging the buttocks to help engage your core. So you can just do a number of things, just whatever is available to you. Maybe your fingers can clasp. If it's just enough to work on your foundation, feel free to just do that. And then we're going to come out by, again, if you need support with the upper body, bring your hands down to the blocks, but gently start to stick the tailbone outward as we lower, firm up the belly, the core, firm up the legs, pressing into those shins so we can bring our hips downward and bring the knees together. You can lift up a shin, lift up the other shin, and eventually, if you can tuck the toes, but if that's not a part of your hero, then keep the feet untucked. And eventually, we're trying to bring hips and the heels together. So you can bring a block there if that's something that helps you out. You can keep the tuck there, and you can work on bringing the hips towards the heels. But eventually, we want that internal rotation of your thighs so you can feel a little more space in those hips as you get them lower to eventually sit at the sits bones. Hopefully your heels feel like they're right underneath the sits bones. And again, in your hero, giving yourself about 3 to 5 breath cycles to find your version of it. Maybe you're here. Maybe you've got a lot of propping. Maybe you've got a deep toe tuck. But wherever you are, once you find that edge, keeping that internal rotation of the knees, and then just finding that relaxing point where you can sort of keep the form, and then breathe. We're breathing 3 to 5 more breath cycles. See if you can recall the ocean. A deep opening at the back of the throat. And when you're ready to come out, we can start with our hands. If you're upright, start to hinge at the hips, bring the hands towards the floor, towards your blocks. Start to lift the hips up. We can tap out the toes. You can stretch. Do what feels good. Sometimes just that friction of dragging the top of the ankle, top of the foot on the mat might help as well. And then we're going to bring our hips to one side so we can make our way onto our belly. We're going to go into our locust position, but first we need to be on our belly. And again, if you have bony hips, bring a blanket down. It feels really nice, especially if you're on a hard linoleum floor. But if you've got good cushion, then we're just making our way to the belly. And because we have not been supported on the belly, maybe it might take a while if your hips are really tight. Maybe you're tented more and you just need to give it some time. You can gently rock. You can slowly lengthen out through the feet, through the legs. And you can support the brow line. If your shoulders are able, you can bring the hands to support you under your brow line. Or if it's just easier to have your face kind of gently on the face or off to the side. But if your face is off to the side, you want to press into the belly and to the chest to balance out on another face turn to the opposite side before we move forward. So as we're making our way to the belly, notice if you're starting to relax through the legs. If there isn't that tenting, see if you can lengthen. You can go up onto the toe tips and then just gently lengthen through the leg and then let the leg gently return, releasing the tops of the feet to the mat once more. I'm going to press into the chest and belly so I can turn my gaze and just notice if the apple of your cheek is resting. As you do your face turns, you don't have to go too deeply from one side to the other. All right, and bringing the face back to center, we'll go ahead and bring the palms onto the mat, and the arms are relaxed at your side. Inhaling, go ahead and lengthen, keeping contact with the mat, lengthen through your legs. And that might just be an intention, that might be just you pointing your toes. You might find a fraction of length more. But just lengthen best you can. You might find the kneecaps lift just slightly as you're engaging from the hips all the way down to the toes. And then release. Take a deep breath. Let the belly be soft. Hopefully you'll release through the hips, through the legs, and you'll feel that release. All right, with the next inhale, start to slowly lengthen, engaging, activating those legs once more, pointing the toes. And then you can bring the palms of the arms, palms onto the floor. Go ahead, and as you're still actively lengthening through the leg, inhale and lift through the left toes. Maybe the foot lifts. See if you can engage and keep that foot lifted. If not, just keep the intention. Maybe you can lengthen all the way from the hip bone to the toes and lengthening the entire left leg. Then exhale, slowly lift that left toe, left foot, left leg, thigh, just relax. And then turn the gaze. You might find more of that space between the cheek and the ear touching the mat. Take a breath or two here. Inhale, press into the chest, into the belly, and turn the gaze to the other side. Inhale once more and bring the face back to center. We're going to make that lengthening once more with both legs. Go ahead and lengthen, pointing through those feet. And palms are once more on the floor if you change that. Go ahead and lengthen through the arms, through the legs, and then inhale. Bring the right foot, toes up. See if you can keep the entire leg active and see how much more of that foot, the top of the foot, perhaps the shin. See if you can lengthen through that leg and lift the entire leg as one whole. And then exhale, bring that right foot, toes down, then the knees, then the thigh, then relax. And then you can turn the gaze to wherever it feels good to release. You may need to bring the arms up and just let the brow release onto the backs of the hand. And then we'll go ahead and just gently rock from side to side. And then once you've given yourself a couple rocks there, go ahead and bend the knees, pointing the toes, and then flexing the feet, letting them relax. Give yourself gentle ankle rolls. You can do them alternately too. We'll roll in one direction, and then we'll roll the ankles in the opposite direction. You can gently shake out the toes. Now, as you have more of your belly hopefully supported, you can keep the face looking downward and keep the arms down with the palms down. And as you have that upside down V with the arms, you're just going to gently press into the arms, into the upper chest, and see if you can lift one knee, just gently. You've got your hips supporting you, your upper body, and you're just seeing if you can lift a knee. You may not even lift it, it's just the intention. Fire up that left glute, and then let the thigh release. One more inhale, we're going to see if we can lift the right thigh, the right knee. Fire up that right glute and lift up. It may not actually lift, that's okay, just the intention's fine too. And then release, come on back down and lower the feet. And as you're responding to this last pose, Do any counter stretching that feels good here. You might need to support the brow once more. Just rock from side to side. Tap out your feet if you need. Flex the feet. Get onto the tiptoes. See if that helps. And then we'll go ahead and roll onto the back. As we're moving onto the back, you might have an open enough shoulder that you can just extend through the arm and roll over. You might need to give yourself a reverse push-up to the knees. It depends on where you are. But coming back onto the mat on our back, best that you can, whichever way works for you. I'm kind of doing this thing. So today, as we make our way onto the back, and you can come on down one forearm at a time, our base bridge position is where we will meet for just a moment. Take about 3 to 5 breath cycles. See if you can find that sacrum relaxing against the mat. If you find there's a lifting at the lower back, you might need a rolled towel. You might just need some time to slowly let the sacrum peel downward. And what we're doing is just gently keeping the feet at about hips distance apart, the knees somewhat upwards. And all we're trying to do for these few breaths is make sure our spine is aligned with our neck and our arms are somewhat off to the sides of the hips. Heels are somewhere within reach, but not touching our buttocks. And then give yourself a roll of the palms downward. Again, that upside down V shape with the arms. And we're going to inhale and then exhale. Just let the feet roll to the outer right edge. The knees are going to windshield wipe to one side. And hopefully take the next few breaths to release through this, the top side of your windshield wipe here. So as your bottom leg is either hovering in the air or with each passing breath getting a little lower, or maybe it's already resting on the floor. And the top knee, my left knee in this case, is hovered still at the air, somewhere above. But sometimes you might find that top knee just resting on the shin of that bottom leg. Just depends. But hopefully, the deeper we go into this first initial exploration, you're finding that hip, torso area at that slight twist, just giving you a little release. Notice if the shoulder is lifted, see if you can relax it downward. One more deep inhale and exhale. And as we come out of this, we may need to help bring the knees up. So use your hands, and you want to gently just bring the sacrum back onto the mat. You might have to help by bringing the cloth or the thighs with you. And the knees back up. And as we're back on the mat, knees pointing up, we want to make sure the spine is in alignment with the neck. And once more, resetting our bridge. Feet are hips distance apart. And then just take the next inhale. And then exhale. Let the knees gently drop to the left side. They'll stop where they need to. And it takes about 3 to 5 breaths. You might find that at first that initial edge is just where your body needs to explore that it's safe, that it's meant to be moving in that way. You might need to come back out if things didn't align correctly. Come back in with less intensity, or just rest where you can. But usually by that 3rd to 5th breath, hopefully you'll find something just releasing. Maybe you might find a toe relaxing. Maybe you find more of your right thigh just resting onto the left shin. All right, so as we end this, we're going to come out with a slow inhale. Assist the knees upwards if you need, and helping the material of the thighs to come back up if you need to. But then gently just give yourself a slight windshield wipe from side to side, a smaller one, but with a little faster frequency. And if you find that's available to you, you might just be able to give yourself a nice massage at the back of the sacrum with the glutes. And as you're windshield wiping, with a different frequency now, you might have one knee follow the other with a little maybe delayed reaction, a second or two. Just giving some exploratory movement to your hips. And then we will meet back at center of your bridge and just pivot out the heels and maybe the toes a little bit more. But, not too much more. You just want to make it a little wider if you need to, so you can allow your knees to drop inward. They may touch, they may just kind of hover inward. But wherever you are, you just want that internal rotation just slightly. You're relaxed in your knees. You might need to bring your feet out further if you need, or up closer towards the hips if you need. But see if you can just hopefully find that sweet spot within your 3 to 5 breaths here. And then from there, we're going to breathe 3 to 5 more good deep breath cycles with the ocean at the back of the throat. Your knees may touch. If it is not working for you, if you have really tight hips, you might just need a block in between those knees. But we do want that gentle internal rotation. We want to hopefully let that relax inward with the help of gravity. Just a few more breaths. And after that last exhale, we'll go ahead and bring the feet back to center. They should be underneath the knees. And the knees should be pointing towards the ceiling. And then we're going to go ahead and allow one leg to extend. Give it some time. You may have a tented knee, you might have a tented hip, or you just might really enjoy having that leg lengthen out onto the mat. If you're feeling that tightness, pointing the toes, flexing the foot, and then gently letting that leg relax. It'll be where it is. Take a breath or two, and then on an exhale, go ahead and let the other leg lengthen downwards. And we'll do the same. Give it some time. If the hips are really tight, it might just be up here for a while as you're lengthening out, as you're doing those last counter stretches to help lengthen and open up. We're moving into our Shavasana. So as we're laying down on our back, the feet can be pointed out away from each other, or they can just be in one long cobra tail and then the feet kind of splaying outwards. Whatever feels comfortable for your hips and your legs. Arms out, long, maybe about 6 inches away from the hips, palms facing up. And then if you have that support under the neck for any tension that's being created under the neck, or maybe a rolled towel under the lower lumbar area. If you're feeling any tension under the neck or the lower lumbar, put some support there with the folded towel. And then for the next 5 minutes, enjoy Shavasana. I'll be sitting up to mind the time, but in Shavasana, you're allowing the body to respond to today's practice. Let the belly be soft, close the eyes. And as the body starts to focus inward, if you become distracted, if thoughts become a part of your awareness, bring the awareness to the breath. Allow yourself to focus back on each inhale and exhale. And when you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken. bringing the mind back to the body, taking note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to your breath. Notice the air as it enters the nose, as it exits the nose. And as you make your way back to the body vessel, you can help awaken the body, reconnect by simply making movements in the knees, in the feet, in the hips, the shoulders, fingers, toes. You can make any stretching over the head, extension of the arms, maybe a flexing and pointing of the feet. We'll make our way back up to an easy seated position. And you can sit with your feet out in front of you. You can sit with your knees, crossed, one leg out in front. You can sit in a hero position as well. We're just exercising our breath of fire as usual. And typically you want to just have your sits bones nice and upright, feeling that good support. You can tip from one side to the other, rock from side to side, tip the pelvic bowl forward and back. Find that center. Feel as if you're just right over your perineum. And as we inhale deeply, bringing that spine nice and tall, see about that string at the crown of the head, gentle tuck of the chin. What we're going to do is 10 breath cycles first. That 10th one will be a long, slow exhale as we push out the air, and then hold the muscles that you kind of will cut off the urine stream with. You want to hold that pelvic floor, gentle tuck of the chin, and feel that energy kind of being trapped right about here for about 3 to 4 breath cycles. That's about 5-6 seconds. And then we'll slowly release. The second round, we'll do 20, but with that same really long, slow last exhale. Each breath of fire is just basically that first initial inhale, and then a bellowing out through pursed lips. That's all we're going to do. So, sitting nice and tall, inhaling deeply. First count of 10, starting now. Hold it. Release. And as you slowly release and exhale, bring the breath back, you might even feel your stance sort of lowering and relaxing. We'll let our breath return. One more deep inhale, sitting up nice and tall, engaging the core, breathing deeply. This time it'll be 20. Inhaling, starting now. Hold it. Slowly release. Let the breath return. And bringing hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me here at the ACC's Community Room for Gentle Yoga at noon. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.